Hi guys, it's Amy and you have found Amy Loves Crochet. Thank you so much for clicking on any of my videos. I do sincerely appreciate your time. I've got kind of a finished project, not kind of, but I've got a finished project to share with you today, and then one more that I created. This was a fail or fabulous kind of situation where I made a blanket and it kind of didn't work out. So what I created was a blanket of squares that I thought were pulling and kind of bunching too much, and I didn't really like it. So I took the squares apart, and there was a couple of different thought processes with making the squares work out. You can always block your crochet. Now when I crochet with my finer yarns or my superwash merino, nylon blends, those kinds of things, they block and they stay blocked. Acrylic, I've not really had the same success with blocking my acrylic, and I know that some of you have, and so maybe I'm just not trying to do it the right way. But so blocking was one of the frames of thought, and I did do that. After I took all the squares apart, I did block them all. But then another frame of thought was, when you're crocheting something and the row doesn't kind of feel right, but then you go through and you crochet the next row and it helps pull it into place. That's another kind of thought process that I went through with this. So I did add another round, and then I also connected the squares a little differently. So let me just go ahead and show you. This is the design, if you remember seeing this video before. The video that I watched was from Happy Berry, and she does this spiral granny square with 4 colors. And she stopped at a certain size, which I will also show you, but she was using DK weight and a 3.5 millimeter hook, and I used 4 worsted weight and a 5 millimeter hook. So she essentially said that you could continue going the same way that with the pattern, as big as you'd like to. And so I did kind of go up a little bit bigger, but when I get to the corners, I don't feel like the corner sort of rotates a little bit as you're doing the spiral, so it doesn't really sit on a perfect corner position. So I kind of felt like it was scooching too far to the no longer being in the corner, and I didn't really like the way that it was looking. That was also part of the problem. But so I don't necessarily think that maybe if you were using a DK and a 3.5 millimeter hook, you could continue going as big as you'd like. But theoretically, I don't know that if I was going to continue on, the 5 millimeter hook would work with the worsted weight to make it the right size or whatever. So I just stopped here with this one because I wanted them nice and big. And the way that I connected them together before was with a seamless back loop only whip stitch. And so all you could see was the mint color. And in this case, I decided to connect them with a single crochet to give them sort of this window pane look, and it gives a bit of a ridge here. So I'll just remind a little bit, this the yarns that I was using, as you saw from the thumbnail, is just yarn. All of them except for this sort of reddish color. Oh, I don't have it here, hold on. So this reddish color is a Red Heart with Love that I got on a clearance for $1.50. The date on this is July of 2017. So the colorway is called Papaya, and so it was $3.47 marked down to $1.50, so I thought that was a good deal. And this is what I've got left of that one. And I really thought that it was a great color to add to the group of colors that I was using for this blanket. So the rest of the colors are all just yarn. And these went from a 60, I got them at the Dollar Tree, and at the time that they were still $1. So I've had them for a long, long time. And these were 60 grams that gave you 131 yards. And now they're making them smaller. For 50 grams, it's only 109 yards. And they're $1.25 now. So you can see inflation is kind of, we all know the Dollar Tree is now $1.25. But to see it play out right in front of your face like that is a little frustrating. But anyway, so this is all that I've got left of the bajillions of skeins I had bought. When I found this, I kind of lost my mind a little bit, and I bought up a whole bunch of all these colors. And I had a yellow at the same time. I do believe I had a yellow. But so the mint, it's called Sea Glass, and it's the one that I had the most of. So I was really trying to use it up in this blanket. But once I disassembled the blanket and started to put it back together, I added a purple round, and I really, really like the way that that looks instead. So between adding that purple round and making the connection, instead of doing the back loop only whip stitch, in this case I did a single crochet border on both loops, and so it kind of stands that your single crochet kind of stands up a bit from the rest of the pattern. It gives you some texture. So here's my new blanket after I took it apart and reassembled it. It's 12 squares, so if you want to go 3 by 4 and 4 by 3, whatever. So I really think that it was a great visual. I couldn't stop looking at the project as the squares were just sitting here, waiting for me to, I was afraid that I wasn't going to like it. You know, I was going to put them back together and still not like it, but I do like it so much more. And so, yeah, in addition to that purple row of single crochets, then I went back through and did another green row, or sea glass, the mint row, all the way through. So I will link the tutorial that Happy Berry puts up for this. If you're an experienced crocheter, it is kind of a slow go and very, very repetitive. So if you just need to kind of buzz through it to get your counts, that's a good reason for me to watch it again anyway. So in addition to that project, I also, and again, I made the square bigger than Happy Berry did in her tutorial. So now what I'll show you is the square of the size. And again, she used a 3.5mm hook with DK weight. I used worsted weight with a 5mm hook, but this is the same count that I used. I'll put up a picture here because I don't want to spoil the project yet. So here's what the square looks like just as the square. And then here's what the square looks like when I finished it off with the mint or the sea glass border. And then I was like holding on to this for a bit and I'm like, do I like that as it is? What am I going to do? And I really liked that papaya color of the Red Heart with Love, and I really wanted to add it to it. Now, part of the problem with this project is that I had created the first square like a year ago when I first made this blanket. And so when I came back now and made the second square to be its offset, my tension wasn't the same. So it's a little bit smaller, but here is what that looks like. And I just absolutely love that papaya color that goes around it. So what I made was a bag, a little purse string here, and I wanted to connect it a little bit differently. So in a lot of cases, you would just pinch these together and like either probably from the inside or from, you know, either whip stitch it from the inside or do a single crochet along the outside, and it's just pinched closed. So there's no volume size to it. I wanted to give it just a little bit of width. So I tied onto one side and did a double crochet and then pulled my loop through the other side like a slip stitch. It's not exactly as I would love to have it. I was trying, you know, just kind of playing around with it and trying to do something different. So it doesn't look perfect, you know, by any means. But I do like that it gives you a little bit of width to the bag instead of just pinching it closed like I would normally do. And it, you know, it's still not like the full square. If you saw my last video, I did granny squares, and so it's a full square for the size of the bottom. This isn't quite that. It's just a little bit, just give you a little something something. So what I did was I was kind of, again, I didn't want to break the bank in trying to figure out how to do a handle. Again, if you saw my last video, it's all about the straps. And so I thought about, you know, different ways to do the handle on this and decided just to, I tied onto one side and did the chain as long as I wanted the handle to be. And then I slip stitched. So again, this width along the side here is a double crochet. So in essence, I have 3 rows of single crochets here just to make a little simple handle for either my granddaughter or somebody. You know, I thought maybe to keep it with the blanket, that's a fun little thing for a kid to have a blanket and then the bag that matches. So I was quite excited to work through the rest of my Just Yarn, but again, I still have all of this to work with. I don't know what I'm going to make, but it just kind of, it's like that lingering thing. I just can't get rid of it. well, so maybe I don't want to say get rid of it, but to work through it. I keep trying to work through it and I still have some left over. So I'm kind of glad that like this is all I've got left. And I tried to put it with my scraps, but because the colors are so pastel, it really felt like it was off from the rest of the scraps. Now maybe that's what scraps are supposed to be, but I just, at the time I wasn't feeling it. Maybe it'll go into the scrap pile now. But before it does, I did make one other thing. So this was the first one that I started to make, and then I didn't like it. So I just put it down and I went to a different yarn. But first I'll show you this. Again, I made it with my 5mm hook. One of those wind spinner things. So it's really much bigger than I thought it was going to be. And at the end, I just took all the strands of yarn and pulled them to the center, stitched them to the center, and just kind of made this braid. I thought I was going to put I read somewhere that you need to put a weight on here. So I went through the beads that I just got from the grab bag from the bead place that I went to in March. And I was going to put some of their beads on here and give it that weight, but the yarn is much bigger than the hole on the beads. They're really, really tiny. I didn't realize. So I just did what is it called when you do a foundation row, like a foundation single crochet? So I did not do a chain and then single crochet into it. I did that foundation where you're creating the chains at the same time as you're doing the single crochets. So I gave it just that simple little loop, and, you know, trying to follow just some different patterns or whatever. The count that people do is a little bit differently. And I think on this one, I was supposed to do a chain 1 in between on one of the rows, and I didn't do it or something. So I didn't know how it was going to turn out. It's just whatever. I mean, I was playing with it. I don't think I've made one of these before. I don't remember making one before. So that was just kind of fun. So I don't know that I'm going to need the weight after all, because the acrylic is kind of heavy. So I think that'll be, I think it's going to end up working out just fine the way it is. So that was the first and the last. Again, I started making it first, and then I stopped, and then I went to this yarn, and when I was done with this one, I came back to that. So anyway, this yarn that I used for the next one is the Yarn Bee Sugar Wheel Cotton Sparkle from Hobby Lobby's clearances. There's a date of 2015 on the yarn band, but I know I didn't buy it then because I've only known about the clearance sales for like 4, maybe 5 years. I'm not sure. But this is called Jenny's Galoshes. It's this really, really great rainbow kind of sparkly color here. You got blue, pink, green, and yellow. And I've got 4 full cakes here, plus a handful of scraps still. I've made some Barbie dresses with it. I can't remember what else I might have made with it. I've had a lot of it, and I've had it for a long time. So I can't remember everything that I would have made with it, but I'm trying to readdress it now. It come back out, you know. So anyway, so I thought the sparkle would be a really good one for the wind catcher thing. Am I holding this still? 3.5mm hook. So when I started with the worsted weight and I didn't like the way that it was coming out, I decided to try this one. And again, I really just thought that the sparkly color would look really good. So I used the green in the center, and then the yellow, and then the pink, and then the blue. It's kind of blowing out there. And then I did the same thing with a little loop here for the, like to hang it from. I did the single crochet foundation row. So you just go in one direction and then you're done. And then I tied it on. But again, kind of thought that it would need a weight down here. I didn't tie this one off yet because, again, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to there's just my strands there. I didn't know how, like, to tie on a little rock or a little bead or something that was going to give it some weight. It's not as heavy as the worsted weight one, but I still think it's kind of cute. Other than that, I'm not quite sure what I've been working on this week. I know that the blanket took me a bit of time. I still had some ends to weave in on that, and, you know, all the decision making or whatever. I tried to do like a couple of different connectors on this purse thingy thing, and so that took me a little bit of time. But yeah, just kind of doing I do have 2 projects that I'm working on that I'm not in love with them. So I'm not always like motivated to work on them, but I am going to get them finished and share those with you. But yeah, they're just kind of, I'll get to the hump where you start to feel better about it, but just for right now, they're still in some weirdo limbo phases. And so that's what I got. All right, guys, I hope everybody's doing well. Have a wonderfully blessed day, and I hope you'll come back and see me again. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.